On November 8, 2023, my son Jerome stood in the lobby of Magnolia Gardens Care Facility and told the receptionist I'd be staying indefinitely. He signed 6 different papers I'd never seen before. His wife Vanessa stood beside him in a cream Burberry coat, smiling at the staff like she was dropping off dry cleaning, not a human being. The intake fee was $8,750 for the first month. I'm Beulah Johnson. I'm 68 years old. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just said, I see. Then I decided to do something about it. And I want to tell you my story. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what happened next changed everything. And somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that it's never too late to take your life back. Let me go back to the beginning so you understand how I ended up here. My name is Beulah Mae Johnson. Born Beulah Mae Williams on July 14, 1955, in Pritchard, Alabama. I'm a black woman who's lived through enough history to fill 3 lifetimes. I worked for 35 years as a cafeteria manager at Green Lake Elementary School. I served 47,000 school lunches, gave out 12,000 free meal tickets to kids whose parents couldn't pay, and never once let a child go hungry on my watch. I married Earl Johnson on June 22, 1974. We had one son, Jerome Earl Johnson, born March 3, 1976. Earl died of a massive heart attack on December 18, 2021, at age 69. He was in our driveway, carrying in groceries. One minute he was asking me where I wanted the sweet potatoes. The next minute he was gone. The coroner said he was dead before he hit the ground. I was a widow at 66. Earl left me the house at 117 Oakwood Lane, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom bungalow we bought in 1982 for $43,500. We were the first black family on that street. We survived rocks through our windows, anonymous letters telling us to leave, and neighbors who wouldn't look us in the eye at the grocery store. But we stayed. We paid off that mortgage in 2004. That house wasn't just property. It was proof that we belonged. After Earl died, I lived alone. I was fine. I cooked my own meals, paid my bills on time, went to First Baptist Church every Sunday where I'd been a member for 41 years. I had friends. Mrs. Patricia lived next door until she moved to Dallas to be with her daughter last year. I had my routines. I was handling my life just fine. But Jerome didn't see it that way. 6 months after Earl passed, I got pneumonia. It was February 2022, middle of one of those southern cold snaps that makes everyone forget how to drive. I was sick for 2 weeks. High fever, couldn't breathe right. Ended up in the hospital for 4 days on IV antibiotics. Jerome visited me twice. The second visit, he brought papers. "Mama," he said, sitting in that uncomfortable hospital chair. "We need to talk about planning. You know, just in case something happens." "I'm not dying, Jerome. It's pneumonia." "I know, Mama, but you're 66. Daddy just passed. We should be smart about this." He slid a folder across my hospital tray. Power of attorney documents. Medical power of attorney, too. "It's just in case," he said. "So if something happens and you can't make decisions, I can help you. That's all it is. Protection." I was tired. My chest hurt. The nurse had just given me something for the pain, and my head felt fuzzy. I signed them. He'd brought his colleague from work, a man named Marcus Webb, who waited in the hallway. "I'll get witnesses later," Jerome said. "This is just to start the paperwork." "Thanks, Mama," Jerome said, kissing my forehead. "You're doing the smart thing." I didn't think about those papers again until 8 months later. What I didn't know was that 3 months later, in April 2023, when I was feeling better and had forgotten about those hospital papers, Jerome would bring them back. He'd call Shayla over, tell her they were routine medical forms, and have her sign as witness. By then, I'd signed so many papers for doctor's appointments and prescriptions, I didn't remember which was which. Let me tell you about my son. Jerome is 47 years old. He's 6 feet 2 inches, keeps his head shaved clean, wears expensive suits to his job as a senior sales manager at Atlas Medical Supply Company. He makes $127,000 a year. I know because he told me when he got the promotion in 2019. He was so proud. He married Vanessa Price in 2018. She's 35, white, blonde, the kind of beautiful that makes people turn around in restaurants. She owned a boutique called V Price Designs in downtown Green Lake, high-end women's clothing, the kind where a scarf costs $300. I went to the opening in 2019. Jerome spent $75,000 helping her launch it. She served champagne in crystal glasses and acted like she'd built an empire. The boutique closed in March 2023. She told everyone it was to pursue new opportunities. But I saw the going out of business signs. Everything's 70% off. The space is a vape shop now. Jerome and Vanessa live in a house on Piedmont Drive, the new development where houses start at $450,000. They drive a BMW X5 and a Mercedes C-Class. They take vacations to Turks and Caicos. They post photos on Facebook of sunset dinners and infinity pools. But something changed after Earl died. Jerome started visiting more often, which at first I thought was sweet. Every Sunday after church he'd stop by, but he'd walk through the house making comments. "Mama, this roof is looking rough. When's the last time you had it inspected?" "The AC is making a weird noise. That's expensive to fix. These stairs are steep. What if you fall?" In June 2023, he mentioned assisted living for the first time. We were having lunch. I'd made fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, the Sunday meal I'd been making for 40 years. He barely touched his plate. "Mama, Vanessa and I have been talking. We think it might be time to look at senior communities. You know, where you'd have people around, activities, medical staff on site." "I don't need medical staff, Jerome. I'm fine." "But you're alone, Mama. What if something happens?" "Then I'll call 911 like everybody else." He didn't bring it up again that day, but I saw the look he exchanged with Vanessa. She'd come with him that Sunday, unusual, since she usually had things to do. She smiled at me over her untouched collard greens. "We just worry about you, Mama B," she said. She called me Mama B. I never asked her to. In August, I forgot one appointment with my cardiologist, Dr. Chen, for my annual checkup. I wrote down the wrong date on my calendar, put August 14th instead of August 7th. The office called me on the 8th asking why I hadn't shown up. I apologized, rescheduled for August 21st, and went. Everything was fine. My blood pressure was 128/82. Dr. Chen said, "Keep doing whatever you're doing, Mrs. Johnson. You're healthier than most 50-year-olds I see." But somehow Jerome found out about the missed appointment. He called me that evening. "Mama, Dr. Chen's office called me. They said you missed your appointment." "Why would they call you? I'm not dead." "I'm your emergency contact, Mama." They were concerned. I rescheduled. I went yesterday. Everything's fine. There was a pause. "Mama, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're forgetting things." "I wrote down the wrong date. That's not dementia, Jerome. That's a calendar error." "It's a sign, Mama. It's a sign that you need more support." I should have heard it then, the way he said more support, like he'd already decided what that meant. September 15th, 2023. That's the day my neighbor Mrs. Patricia moved away. She was 73, moving to Dallas to live with her daughter after her hip surgery. We'd lived next door to each other for 18 years. She was the one who'd bring me mail when I was out of town, who I'd have coffee with on Saturday mornings. The day the moving truck pulled away, I stood on my porch and cried. Not because I couldn't handle being alone, I'd been handling it fine, but because I'd lost my last daily connection to someone who knew me, who knew Earl, who remembered when we first moved in. Jerome came by that afternoon. He'd been checking on the situation with Mrs. Patricia's house. The new owners hadn't moved in yet. "See, Mama? This is what I mean. You're isolated now. What if you need help?" "I have a phone, Jerome. I have friends at church. I'm fine." But I saw him looking at me differently, like I was a problem he needed to solve. October 3rd, 2023. Jerome called and said he wanted to take me to lunch. Vanessa would come too. They wanted to talk about some things. We met at the Magnolia Room, an upscale restaurant in Green Lake where lunch costs $40 a person. Jerome insisted on paying. They ordered wine. I got sweet tea. "Mama," Jerome said after the waiter brought our appetizers, calamari that I didn't touch, "we found a place for you to look at. It's beautiful, really beautiful." "What kind of place?" "A senior living community, Magnolia Gardens. It's only 15 minutes from our house. They have full medical staff, activities every day, chef-prepared meals. I'm not moving into a nursing home, Jerome." "It's not a nursing home," Vanessa jumped in, her voice syrupy sweet. "It's independent living with support. You'd have your own apartment, but help is there if you need it." "I don't need it." Jerome leaned forward. Mama, you're 68. You live alone. You missed a doctor's appointment. Your neighbor moved away. The house is too big for you. What happens when you can't climb those stairs anymore? What happens if you fall and no one finds you for days? That's not going to happen. It might, Mama. And Vanessa and I, we can't sleep at night worrying about you. We just want you to be safe. Safe. That word. I heard it so many times over the next month I started to hate it. I'm not interested, I said. Thank you for lunch, but I'm going home. I stood up. Jerome grabbed my wrist, not hard, but firm enough to make me sit back down. Mama, please, just look at it. Just tour the place. If you hate it, we'll never mention it again. That was the lie, but I didn't know it yet. October 12th, 2023. Jerome picked me up at 10 a.m. to tour Magnolia Gardens. Vanessa came too, dressed like she was going to a country club. White linen pants, a silk blouse, gold jewelry that probably cost more than my monthly bills. Magnolia Gardens is a sprawling complex on the north side of Green Lake, right off Highway 78. Pretty brick buildings, manicured lawns, a fountain in front with Magnolia Gardens Senior Living Community in brass letters. The tour guide was a woman named Sandra Pryor, white, mid-40s, red lipstick, the kind of smile that stays on her face whether she means it or not. Mrs. Johnson, she said, shaking my hand like we were old friends. We're so excited to show you around. Your son has told us wonderful things about you. She walked us through the lobby. Marble floors, fresh flowers, a grand piano no one was playing. She showed us the dining room with its white tablecloths and menu posted on a gold-framed board. She showed us the activity center where residents were doing a painting class. 8 elderly people awkwardly holding brushes while an instructor told them where to put the blue. Then she showed me room 317. This would be your apartment, Sandra said, opening the door. It was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchenette with a microwave and a mini fridge. The furniture was already in place. A bed made too tight, a floral armchair, a TV on a wheeled stand. There was a window overlooking the parking lot. We can bring in some of your personal items to make it feel like home, Sandra said. Photos, your favorite blanket, whatever makes you comfortable. I looked at Jerome. He was nodding, smiling. It's perfect, right, Mama? It wasn't perfect. It was a cage with floral wallpaper. I don't want this, I said quietly. Sandra's smile faltered for just a second. Why don't I give you all some privacy to talk? She left, closing the door behind her. Jerome sat on the bed. Vanessa stood by the window looking at her phone. Mama, this is the right choice. I know it's hard, but it's not hard, Jerome. It's wrong. I don't belong here. I'm not sick. I'm not confused. I'm fine in my own home. You're not fine, Mama. His voice rose. You're alone. You're forgetting things. The house is falling apart. We can't keep worrying about you every single day. Then stop worrying. I didn't ask you to worry. Vanessa turned from the window. Beulah, honey, we're just trying to help. You're being stubborn. I'm being clear. There's a difference. Jerome stood up. We've already put down a deposit. The room went cold. You what? $8,750. First month in security. It's refundable if we cancel within 48 hours. But Mama, please, just try it for a month. Just 1 month. If you hate it, we'll bring you home. That was the second lie. November 8th, 2023. The day I told you about at the beginning. Jerome picked me up at 9 a.m. He'd packed 3 suitcases for me. He'd come by the day before and gone through my closet, my drawers, my bathroom. He'd taken what he thought I'd need. Just for a month, Mama, he said, loading the suitcases into his BMW. You're going to love it. You'll see. Vanessa didn't come this time. The drive to Magnolia Gardens took 14 minutes. Neither of us spoke. When we arrived, Sandra was waiting with paperwork. Mrs. Johnson, welcome. Let me get you all checked in. Jerome signed the papers. All of them. I watched his pen move across lines I couldn't read from where I was standing. We'll need her phone and keys for the intake process, Sandra said. Just temporary for the initial assessment period. Assessment period? I asked. It's standard, Jerome said quickly. Just the first 72 hours while they evaluate your needs. He took my purse, pulled out my phone, the iPhone 11 he'd bought me for Christmas 2 years ago, pulled out my keys, the keys to 117 Oakwood Lane, the keys to my 2016 Camry, the little decorative keychain Shayla had made me in 3rd grade that said "World's Best Grandma." He handed them to Sandra. "I'll hold on to these for you, Mrs. Johnson," she said, putting them in a plastic bin labeled with my name. "When do I get them back?" I asked. "We'll assess that during your first week." Jerome kissed my cheek. His cologne, Tom Ford, $150 a bottle, made my eyes water. "I'll call you tonight, Mama. I love you. This is the right thing. You'll see." Then he left. I stood in that lobby, marble floors, fresh flowers, grand piano, and watched my son walk out the door. Sandra touched my elbow. "Let's get you settled in room 317, Mrs. Johnson." The first night I didn't sleep. Every 30 minutes someone walked past my door, nurses checking on residents, aides pushing medication carts, the shuffle of slippers and walkers and wheels. The walls were thin. I could hear Mrs. Eleanor in 315 crying. I could hear Mr. James in 319 talking to someone who wasn't there. I lay in that bed, made too tight, sheets that smelled like industrial bleach, and stared at the ceiling. On the nightstand, Jerome had placed one framed photo, me and Earl on our wedding day, June 22nd, 1974. I was 18 years old in that photo. Earl was 21. We were babies. We had no idea what was ahead of us. The hard years, the happy years, the 47 years we'd have together before his heart gave out in our driveway. I picked up that photo and held it. "Earl," I whispered, "what do I do?" He didn't answer. He's been dead for almost 2 years, but I knew what he'd say. Earl always said the same thing when life got hard. "Beulah, you're the strongest woman I know. You'll figure it out. You always do." So I started figuring it out. Day 2 at Magnolia Gardens. Breakfast was at 8 a.m. in the dining hall, a large room with round tables that sat 6 people each. The food came on plastic trays, runny scrambled eggs, toast that tasted like cardboard, a small cup of canned fruit cocktail, coffee from an industrial urn. I sat at a table near the window. A woman across from me, white, probably 85, blind in one eye, introduced herself. "I'm Dorothy Fletcher. Been here 5 years. Where'd you come from, honey?" "Oakwood Lane, Green Lake." "Oh, that's a nice area. I used to live on Bishop Street. My family moved me here in 2018. Said they'd visit every week." She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "I've seen my daughter twice in 5 years. She lives in Arizona now." Another woman joined us, black, maybe 90, with hands twisted from arthritis. "Hilda Washington," she said. "Don't mind the food. You get used to it. Or you don't. Either way, you're eating it." I didn't eat much. My stomach was in knots. After breakfast, Sandra found me in the lobby. "Mrs. Johnson, I have some items your son dropped off this morning." She handed me a plastic bag. Inside, 1 blue cardigan, 1 Sunday dress, a scarf I hadn't worn in years, and my winter coat, the navy one with the broken zipper that Earl had bought me for my 40th birthday in 1995. That coat was older than Jerome's marriage. "Is this all?" I asked. Sandra checked her clipboard. "That's what was delivered. Your son said he's still sorting through your belongings and will bring more later." Sorting through my belongings. In the house I still owned, that I'd been removed from without ever signing a lease for this place. "Sandra, when can I leave?" She looked uncomfortable. "Well, you're checked in as a full resident. Your son has power of attorney, so he's managing your care plan. You'd need to discuss that with him." "What does my care plan say?" She flipped through papers on her clipboard. "Let's see. You're listed as needing supervised care due to memory issues and risk of wandering. Phone privileges are restricted pending behavioral assessment." "Phone privileges? I'm 68, not 8. It's standard for residents in your intake category. We want to make sure you're settled before adding external stressors." I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Thank you, Sandra," and went back to room 317. I closed the door, it didn't lock from the inside, and sat on the edge of that too-tight bed. Then I reached for the plastic bag with my clothes. The blue cardigan was wrinkled. The Sunday dress had a stain I didn't remember. The scarf still smelled like the lavender sachets I kept in my closet drawers. And then there was the coat, that navy blue coat with the broken zipper. Earl had bought it at Dillard's on November 15th, 1995, for my 40th birthday. It cost $127, a lot of money back then for us. He'd had it gift-wrapped. He'd been so proud, saying, "Now you'll stay warm all winter, Beulah," I'd worn that coat for 28 years, through snow days and church services and grocery runs and that horrible winter when Earl had the flu, and I'd sat with him in the emergency room for 6 hours while they ran tests. That coat had memories in every thread. I put my hand in the pocket, force of habit, checking for tissues or old receipts. And I felt paper. My heart stopped. I pulled out a ticket. Not just any ticket, a lottery ticket. Powerball. The numbers were printed clearly. 07-14-22-31-45-12. I turned it over. The purchase date, September 10th, 2023. And suddenly, I remembered. September 10th, 2023. First Baptist Church, after Sunday service. Pastor Williams stood at the door as people filed out, shaking hands, asking about families. Next to him, a table with a cash box and a young deacon named Marcus holding a roll of lottery tickets. "Fundraiser for the youth mission trip," Marcus called out. "Powerball tickets, $20 each. All proceeds go to send our kids to serve in Atlanta." I'd stopped. I always supported the youth program. I'd chaperoned mission trips for 15 years before I got too old to sleep on church floors. "How much for two?" I asked Marcus. $40, Sister Beulah. Thank you so much." I'd pulled two 20s from my wallet and taken 2 tickets, put one in my purse, one in my coat pocket. Thought, maybe Earl will send us luck from heaven. Then I'd forgotten about them completely. I sat on that bed in room 317, holding that lottery ticket, and my hands started to shake. I needed to check if it won. But I had no phone, no computer, no way to look up lottery results. I waited until 2 p.m. when I knew the afternoon shift would be on. The younger nurses, the ones who were less strict. I walked to the front desk. A young black woman I hadn't seen before was sitting there, scrolling through her phone. Her name tag said Keisha Moore, nursing aide. "Excuse me," I said. "I'm Beulah Johnson, room 317. She looked up and smiled. "Hi, Mrs. Johnson. What can I help you with?" "I was wondering, could I borrow your phone for just a minute? I need to look something up. It's important." She hesitated. "We're not really supposed to—" "Please," I said. "It's about church. I need to check something for my pastor. Just 1 minute." She glanced around. The lobby was empty. "Okay, but make it quick." She handed me her iPhone. I went to Google and typed, "Powerball winning numbers, September 10th, 2023. The Georgia Lottery website loaded. Winning numbers for September 10th, 2023, 07-14-2, 2-3, 1-45-12. I looked at my ticket. My numbers, 07-14-2, 2-3, 1-45-12. I looked again. They matched. All 6 numbers. My vision blurred. I blinked hard. I scrolled down. Jackpot, $87 million. Status, unclaimed. I stood there in the lobby of Magnolia Gardens, holding Keisha's phone, and for a moment the entire world went silent. "Mrs. Johnson, you okay?" Keisha was looking at me with concern. "You need to sit down?" I handed her phone back. My hand was steady. My voice was steady. "I'm fine, honey. Thank you so much." "Did you find what you needed?" "Yes," I said. "Yes, I did." I walked back to room 317, closed the door, sat on the bed. Then I pulled out the small notebook I'd hidden in my nightstand drawer, the one Jerome hadn't known to take because he'd packed so fast. And I wrote, November 10th, 2023, Day 2 at Magnolia Gardens. Jerome has stolen my freedom, but I have $87 million in my coat pocket, and he has no idea. I tucked the ticket into my Bible, the King James Version Earl's mother had given me on our wedding day. It was the one possession I'd insisted on bringing, and no one had questioned it. Then I lay back on that too-tight bed, and for the first time since Jerome had locked me in this place, I smiled. Because they'd made a mistake. They'd thought I was powerless, but I wasn't. Not anymore. Day 3 at Magnolia Gardens, I realized I needed help. Professional help. The kind Jerome didn't know about. I sat in the activities room, they called it that, but it was just a space with folding tables and shelves of puzzles missing pieces, and I thought about who I could trust. Who would believe me? Who had the power to fight what Jerome had done? And then I remembered my nephew, Darius Williams, my late sister Lorraine's boy. He was 35 now, a civil rights attorney in Atlanta. We'd been close when he was young. I'd helped pay for his undergraduate at Morehouse. Sent him $200 a month for 4 years when Lorraine was struggling. He'd cried at my kitchen table when he got his acceptance letter to Emory Law School, but I hadn't talked to him in almost 2 years. Life got busy. He got busy. We'd texted on birthdays, but that was it. Still, I knew Darius, and I knew he specialized in elder law and civil rights cases. I'd seen him on the news once, representing a 72-year-old woman whose son had stolen her house. If anyone would understand, it would be Darius. The problem was, I had no phone. That afternoon, I befriended Dorothy Fletcher, the woman from breakfast who'd been at Magnolia Gardens for 5 years. "Dorothy," I said, sitting next to her in the TV room where she was half watching The Price is Right. "Does your family visit?" "My grandson Tyler comes every Saturday," she said. "Like clockwork. He's a good boy, 19 years old, studying at the community college." "That's wonderful." "He's the only one who remembers I exist." I hesitated, then decided to take the risk. "Dorothy, I need help. I need someone to make a phone call for me, someone the staff won't question." She turned to look at me, her good eye sharp and clear. "What kind of phone call?" "To my nephew. He's a lawyer. I need him to know I'm here." Dorothy studied my face for a long moment. Then she said, "Tyler will be here Saturday, 3 days from now. I'll tell him." "Thank you." "What's your nephew's name?" "Darius Williams. He's in Atlanta." I gave her the number. I'd had it memorized since I'd called him 2 years ago when Lorraine died. Dorothy nodded. "Tyler won't ask questions. He's a good boy." Saturday, November 13th, 2023. I didn't meet Tyler. Dorothy said it was safer that way. Fewer people seeing us together meant fewer people asking questions. But at 2:47 p.m., Dorothy found me in the hallway. "It's done," she whispered. "Tyler called your nephew, gave him your message." "What did he say?" "Your nephew said, 'Tell Aunt Beulah I'm coming. Tell her Oakwood.'" Oakwood, the code word. Our grandmother, Lorraine and my mama, had lived on Oakwood Street in Montgomery. Darius was telling me he understood. He was coming. I went back to my room and waited. 3 days later, Tuesday, November 16th, 2023, at 1:15 p.m., a man walked into Magnolia Gardens and signed the visitor log as Reverend Darius Williams, First Baptist Church. Sandra barely looked at him. "Room number?" "I'm here for Beulah Johnson. Room 317. Pastoral visit." "Oh, how lovely. She's probably in the chapel, down the hall, second door on the right." I was already there, waiting. The chapel was a small room with 6 pews, a wooden cross on the wall, and a piano no one played. It was empty on Tuesday afternoons. I'd learned the patterns by now. Darius walked in. He was taller than I remembered, 6 feet 1 inch, wearing a dark suit, glasses, carrying a leather messenger bag. He looked like a lawyer pretending to be a pastor, but it worked. "Aunt Beulah," he said, and his voice cracked. I stood up and hugged him. He smelled like Earl's cologne, something woody and clean. For a moment I almost cried, but I didn't. "Thank you for coming," I said. "What the hell is going on? Tyler said you're being held here? Jerome put you here?" We sat in the back pew. I told him everything. The power of attorney I'd signed when I had pneumonia. The papers I'd never read. The tour of Magnolia Gardens. The deposit Jerome put down without asking me. The day he brought me here and took my phone and keys. "Do you have the power of attorney documents?" Darius asked. "No, he has them." "Do you know what they say?" "No, but Sandra said I'm listed as having memory issues, and I'm a wandering risk." "None of that is true." Darius pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "Have you been evaluated by a doctor here?" "No, just intake paperwork." "Do you know what doctor signed off on your admission?" "Jerome mentioned a Dr. Sheffield. I've never met him." Darius stopped writing. "Raymond Sheffield?" "I don't know his first name." "Ray Sheffield went to college with Jerome. They were roommates sophomore year." The room went cold. "He used his friend," I said quietly. "He used his friend to get a fraudulent competency evaluation. That's what I'm betting." Darius's jaw was tight. "Aunt Beulah, I'm going to get you out of here, but we need to be strategic. We need evidence, and we need time." "I have time," I said. "And I have something else." I pulled the lottery ticket from my Bible and handed it to him. Darius looked at it, looked at me, looked at it again. "Have you verified this?" "Yes, I won." All 6 numbers. September 10th drawing. $87 million. Still unclaimed. He stared at the ticket for a long moment, then carefully handed it back to me. Does Jerome know? No. Vanessa? No. Anyone? You, Dorothy. That's it. Darius leaned back against the pew. Aunt Beulah, this changes everything. With this kind of money, we can hire the best lawyers in the state. We can fight this properly, but we have to protect the ticket first. How? We set up a trust. Anonymous. Claim it through a legal entity so your name isn't public. Then we use the resources to fight Jerome's power of attorney, get you out of here, and make sure he never controls your life again. How long will it take? 3 to 4 weeks if we move fast. We need to get you evaluated by an independent psychiatrist, someone who'll prove you're completely competent. We need to document everything Jerome has done, and we need to file a motion to revoke the power of attorney. I nodded. What do you need from me? Right now, stay calm. Act like everything is normal. Let Jerome think you're settling in. And don't tell anyone about the ticket, not even people you trust. What about you? What are you going to do? Darius smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who'd just been handed a winning case. I'm going to investigate your son, and I have a feeling I'm going to find exactly what we need. Darius worked fast. On November 17th, he called me using Dorothy's grandson Tyler's phone, a burner he'd bought just for this purpose. Aunt Beulah, I've been looking into Jerome's finances. How much do you know about his situation? I know he makes $127,000 a year. He and Vanessa live in that big house on Piedmont Drive. That house is mortgaged for $430,000. They're 3 months behind on payments. I felt my stomach drop. 3 months? Vanessa's boutique failed last March. She lost $180,000. They tried to cover it with credit cards. They're now $340,000 in debt. Credit cards maxed out. Second mortgage on the house. They're 60 days from foreclosure. $340,000. The number sat in my chest like a stone. That's why, I said. That's why he did this. He needs my house. Your house is worth $580,000, Aunt Beulah. Free and clear. If he can sell it, he solves all their problems. But he can't sell it. It's my house. He has power of attorney. Legally, he can sell it if he can prove it's in your best interest. And with you institutionalized with a diagnosis of cognitive decline, he can make that argument. Has he listed it yet? There was a pause. Not officially, but I pulled county records. There's been an appraisal done, November 2nd, 6 days before he put you in Magnolia Gardens. I closed my eyes. He'd planned this. All of it. There's more, Darius said. I subpoenaed your bank records under an elder abuse investigation claim. Jerome has been withdrawing money from your savings account since March 2023. How much? $47,300. I couldn't breathe. He's been forging your signature on withdrawal slips. $3,000 here, $5,000 there. Small enough to not trigger bank alerts, but consistent. He's been bleeding your accounts dry while telling you he's managing your finances. $47,300. That was almost a full year of my cafeteria manager salary. That was the money Earl and I had saved, penny by penny, for emergencies and grandkids, and a future we thought was secure. Darius, I said, my voice shaking, I want him prosecuted. We will. But first we get you out. Then we make sure he can never do this to anyone again. Thanksgiving at Magnolia Gardens was turkey that tasted like wet paper, canned cranberry sauce, and instant mashed potatoes served on plastic trays at 5 p.m. Jerome visited for 30 minutes. He brought a store-bought pumpkin pie, still in the Walmart container, and sat across from me in the family visiting room. Happy Thanksgiving, Mama, he said. How are you settling in? I'm here, I said. That's good. That's real good. He looked around. They treating you okay? It's a cage, Jerome, but the bars are polite. He flinched. Don't be like that, Mama. You know this is for the best. Best for who? For you. For your safety. I looked at my son, this man I'd carried for 9 months, raised for 47 years, loved through every mistake and victory, and I saw a stranger. Jerome, have you been in my house? He hesitated. Just to get your things. Why? Have you been in my accounts? I'm managing your finances, Mama. That's what power of attorney means. Have you taken money? His face went blank. I've been paying your bills. How much have you taken? I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He stood up. I think the stress is getting to you, Mama. Maybe you should rest. I'll visit next week. He left. I went back to my room and wrote in my notebook, November 25th, 2023. Jerome knows I'm asking questions. He's scared. Good. On December 4th, 2023 at 10 a.m., a woman arrived at Magnolia Gardens and asked to see me. Her name was Dr. Lorraine Baptiste. She was a black woman, probably early 60s, wearing a burgundy suit and carrying a leather briefcase. She signed in as Dr. Baptiste Psychiatric Consultation. Sandra looked confused. We didn't schedule a psychiatric consultation for Mrs. Johnson. It's a third-party evaluation, Dr. Baptiste said smoothly. Routine for new residents. Insurance requirement. Sandra bought it. She walked Dr. Baptiste to my room. Dr. Baptiste closed the door and sat down across from me. Mrs. Johnson, I'm Dr. Lorraine Baptiste. I'm a forensic psychiatrist specializing in elder competency evaluations. Your nephew Darius Williams hired me to conduct an independent assessment. Do you consent to this evaluation? Yes. Good. This will take about 4 hours. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. Some will seem silly. Answer honestly. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. She opened her briefcase and pulled out forms, tests, questionnaires. For 4 hours, Dr. Baptiste tested me. She asked me to remember 3 words and repeat them back 5 minutes later. She asked me to draw a clock showing 3:15. She asked me to count backward from 100 by sevens. She asked me about current events, historical facts, personal history. She asked me to solve simple math problems. She asked me to explain proverbs. At the end, she put down her pen and looked at me. Mrs. Johnson, you scored 29 out of 30 on the mini mental state examination. That's well within normal range for someone your age. You have 0 signs of dementia, 0 signs of cognitive impairment, and your reasoning and memory are actually superior to average. So I'm not crazy. You're not even close to crazy. You're one of the sharpest 68-year-olds I've ever evaluated. I felt my eyes burn. I blinked hard. Why am I here then? That's what we're going to find out, Dr. Baptiste said. She pulled out a file. I also obtained the evaluation that was used to justify your institutionalization. It was conducted by a Dr. Raymond Sheffield on October 20th, 2023. The exam lasted 15 minutes. He didn't administer any standardized tests. He based his diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment on clinical observation alone. He's Jerome's friend. I know, your nephew told me. Mrs. Johnson, in my professional opinion, that evaluation is fraudulent. It doesn't meet any standard of medical or psychiatric rigor, and I'm going to say that in court. On December 11th, Jerome visited again. This time, he brought Vanessa. She walked into the visiting room wearing a cream cashmere sweater and jeans that probably cost $300. She kissed my cheek. Her perfume was overpowering, something floral and expensive. Mama B, she said, sitting down next to Jerome. You're looking so well. This place agrees with you. Does it? Jerome and I have been talking, Vanessa continued, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. And we think maybe it's time to start sorting through your house. You know, figuring out what you want to keep, what we can donate, what needs to be sold, I finished. She blinked. Well stored. We're not selling anything without your permission. That's a lie, Vanessa. You've already had the house appraised. Jerome's face went white. How do you? I'm old, Jerome, not stupid. Mama, we're just being practical. The house is too big. The maintenance costs alone. The house is paid off. I've lived there for 41 years, and you have no right to touch it. I have power of attorney, which you obtained fraudulently when I was sick. The room went silent. Vanessa stood up. Jerome, maybe we should go. No, Jerome said, his voice rising. Mama, who have you been talking to? Who's been filling your head with this? Nobody needs to fill my head with anything. I remember signing those papers. I remember you telling me it was just in case. I remember you promising this place was temporary. I remember everything, Jerome, because there's nothing wrong with my memory. He stood up, his hands clenched. You don't understand what you're talking about. I understand that you've stolen $47,300 from my bank account. I understand that you're 3 months behind on your mortgage. I understand that you need my house to save yourself from bankruptcy, and I understand that you locked your own mother in a nursing home to make that happen." Jerome's face went from white to red. "You can't prove any of that." I smiled. "Yes, I can." Vanessa grabbed Jerome's arm. "We're leaving. Now." They walked out. I sat in that visiting room for a long time after they left, my heart pounding. Then I went to find Dorothy. "It's time," I told her. "Tell Tyler I need Darius. Tell him it's time to move." Darius came back, this time with documents. We met in the chapel again. He spread papers across the pew between us. "I filed an emergency motion with the county court," he said. "We're asking to 1. Revoke Jerome's power of attorney based on fraud and abuse. 2. Release you from Magnolia Gardens immediately. 3. Freeze all of Jerome's access to your assets. 4. Launch a formal investigation into elder financial exploitation." "When's the hearing?" "December 28th. 2 weeks. That's fast. Judge Patricia Okafor is hearing the case. She's tough. Former ACLU attorney. She doesn't tolerate elder abuse." "What about the ticket?" Darius pulled out another document. "I've already set up an anonymous trust, the EJ, Freedom Trust. Earl Johnson's initials. You're the sole beneficiary, but the claim will be filed through the trust so your name stays sealed. The Lottery Commission is processing it now. The funds should transfer within 7 to 10 days. "How much after taxes?" "Approximately $44.3 million. I sat back against the pew. $44.3 million. Enough to hire 10 lawyers. Enough to make sure Jerome never controlled another person's life. "Darius, I want most of it protected. I want Shayla taken care of. Jerome's daughter. She's a good girl. She doesn't deserve to suffer because of her father's choices." "How much for Shayla?" $15 million. In a trust she can access at 30, but with allowances for education, housing, medical emergencies. Darius wrote it down. "What else?" $5 million for a scholarship fund. Black students from Green Lake. Earl would have wanted that." "Done. What about Jerome?" I looked at my nephew. "Jerome gets nothing. Not a penny. Not now. Not ever." Darius nodded. "Understood. I'll draft the documents." "And Darius? There's one more thing I need." "What?" "I need to know if Shayla knew, if she was part of this." December 18th, 2023, Shayla Johnson arrived at Magnolia Gardens at 3 p.m. unannounced. She was 24 years old, studying social work at Georgia State University. She had Jerome's height, Vanessa's blonde hair, and my late husband's eyes, Earl's eyes, passed down through genetics like a gift. Sandra called me to the front desk. "Mrs. Johnson, your granddaughter is here to see you." Shayla was standing in the lobby, wearing jeans and a Georgia State hoodie. She was crying before I even reached her. "Grandma," she whispered and threw her arms around me. We went to the visiting room. I closed the door. "Baby, what's wrong?" "Grandma, She couldn't get the words out. She was sobbing. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know until last week." "Know what?" "I overheard Mom and Dad fighting. Mom was screaming about money, about the house, about—" She stopped, looked at me. "Grandma, did you buy lottery tickets? Church lottery tickets?" My blood went cold. "Why are you asking me that?" "Because Mom was yelling about it. She was saying, what if she finds the ticket? What if she already found it? And Dad was saying, she doesn't remember. She doesn't even know where her coat is." I sat down slowly. "They've been looking for it," Shayla continued. "Dad's been going through your house for weeks, through your coat pockets, your drawers, everything. They think there's a winning lottery ticket somewhere, and they've been trying to find it before you do." "Did they find it?" "No. But Grandma—" She looked at me with those Earl eyes. "Did you? Did you find it?" This was the moment. Trust or don't trust. I looked at my granddaughter, the girl I'd raised half the time while Jerome worked, the girl who'd spent every summer at my house learning to make biscuits and garden and pray, the girl who'd called me every Sunday until 6 months ago when Jerome started isolating me. "Yes," I said. "I found it, and I won." Shayla's hands flew to her mouth. "How much?" "Enough." "Does Dad know?" "Not yet." She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Grandma, there's something else I need to tell you." "What?" 6 months ago, Dad asked me to sign some papers. He said they were for your medical care, for emergencies. I didn't read them carefully. I just signed where he told me to. My heart sank. What papers? I think they were the power of attorney documents. I think I was one of the witnesses. She started crying again. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what they really were. I didn't know he was going to do this to you. If I'd known, I never would have. Shayla, stop. I took her hands. Did your father pressure you? Yes. He said, just sign here, Shayla. It's just paperwork. It doesn't mean anything. Did he explain what it was? No. He just said it was for your protection. Then you were manipulated, just like I was. She looked up at me. What are you going to do? I'm going to take my life back, and I'm going to make sure your father never does this to anyone again. Can I help? Please, Grandma, I want to help. I studied her face. She meant it. Yes, I said. You can help, and what I need from you is going to be hard. What? In 10 days, we're going to court, and I need you to testify against your father. December 28th, 2023. 3. The Green Lake County Courthouse was built in 1957, back when they still made buildings that looked like they meant something. Stone steps, tall columns, an American flag that snapped in the winter wind. I walked up those steps at 8:45 a.m., wearing my purple dress, the one Earl had loved, the one I'd worn to his funeral 2 years ago. Darius walked beside me on one side, Shayla on the other. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. 20 rows of wooden benches, fluorescent lights that hummed, and a judge's bench that looked like it had seen 1,000 lives decided across its surface. Judge Patricia Okafor was already seated. She was a black woman, maybe 52 years old, with natural hair pulled back in a bun and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up as we entered, and her eyes were the kind that missed nothing. Jerome sat on the other side with his lawyer, a white man in his 40s wearing a suit that probably cost $3,000. His name was Bradley Hampton, and Darius had told me he worked for a corporate firm that charged $450 an hour. Vanessa sat behind Jerome in the gallery. She wore all black, like she was attending a funeral. Maybe she was. Jerome wouldn't look at me. The gallery was half full. Keisha from Magnolia Gardens had come. She'd taken the morning off. Tyler, Dorothy's grandson, sat in the back. Reverend Williams from First Baptist Church sat 3 rows behind me. He'd finally answered my messages, full of apologies and prayers. At 9 a.m. exactly, Judge Okafor banged her gavel. We're here for the matter of Beulah Mae Johnson versus Jerome Earl Johnson, emergency motion to revoke power of attorney. Mr. Williams, you're representing the petitioner? Darius stood. Yes, Your Honor. Darius Williams for Mrs. Beulah Johnson. Mr. Hampton, you're representing the respondent? Hampton stood. Yes, Your Honor. Bradley Hampton for Mr. Jerome Johnson. Let's proceed. Mr. Hampton, your client has power of attorney over Mrs. Johnson. Make your case for why it should remain in effect. Hampton's opening statement was smooth, practiced, designed to make Jerome look like a saint. Your Honor, my client is a devoted son who made difficult but necessary decisions to protect his elderly mother. Mrs. Johnson is 68 years old. She lives alone. She has documented memory issues, missed medical appointments, confusion about dates. After the death of her husband 2 years ago, her son became concerned about her ability to safely manage her own affairs. Mr. Johnson obtained power of attorney through proper legal channels, with his mother's consent, witnessed by appropriate parties. He then arranged for professional care at Magnolia Gardens, a respected facility, to ensure her safety and well-being. The power of attorney was not obtained through fraud or coercion. It was obtained through love and concern. And we ask that this court recognize that difficult family decisions should not be second-guessed by outside parties with unknown motivations. He sat down. Judge Okafor looked at Darius. Mr. Williams? Darius stood, and his voice was quiet, but it filled the room. Your Honor, this case is about theft. It's about a son who saw his mother as an ATM machine. It's about elder abuse disguised as concern. And it's about a woman who is completely competent being imprisoned because she was inconvenient. We will show that Mr. Jerome Johnson obtained power of attorney under false pretenses while his mother was ill. We will show that he has systematically stolen $47,300 from her bank accounts. We will show that he institutionalized her not for her safety, but to gain control of her assets, specifically her home, valued at $580,000, which he needs to cover his own debts. And we will show that Mrs. Johnson is not only competent, she's sharper than most people half her age. This isn't about difficult family decisions, Your Honor. This is about financial exploitation, and Mrs. Johnson deserves her freedom back. Hampton called Dr. Sheffield first. He was a white man, probably 50, with thinning hair and a nervous energy. He kept adjusting his tie. Dr. Sheffield, Hampton began, please tell the court about your evaluation of Mrs. Johnson. I examined Mrs. Johnson on October 20th, 2023 at her son's request. Based on my clinical observations, I determined she was experiencing mild cognitive impairment consistent with early-stage dementia. What did this evaluation entail? I spent approximately 15 to 20 minutes with her, assessing her orientation, memory, and judgment. Darius stood for cross-examination. He didn't rush. He just looked at Dr. Sheffield for a long moment. Dr. Sheffield, you've known Jerome Johnson since college, correct? Yes. We were roommates. Are you friends? Yes, we're friends. Did he pay you for this evaluation? Pause. He covered the consultation fee. How much? $2,500. Darius walked to the evidence table and picked up a document. Dr. Sheffield, did you administer the mini mental state examination? No. The Montreal Cognitive Assessment? No. Any standardized cognitive test? I used clinical observation. So you spent 15 minutes looking at a 68-year-old woman and diagnosed her with dementia based on what exactly? Her son reported memory issues. I observed confusion during our conversation. What specific examples of confusion? Dr. Sheffield hesitated. She seemed uncertain about dates. That's it? She seemed uncertain about dates? There were other factors. Name one. Silence. Judge Okafor leaned forward. Dr. Sheffield, answer the question. I don't recall the specific details. Darius put the document down. Because there were no details, were there? You wrote a diagnosis to help your friend get control of his mother's money. That's the truth, isn't it? Objection. Hampton stood. Withdrawn, Darius said. No further questions. Dr. Sheffield left the stand looking like he wanted to disappear. Dr. Baptiste took the stand in her burgundy suit, her voice clear and professional. Dr. Baptiste, Darius asked, please tell the court about your evaluation of Mrs. Johnson. I conducted a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation on December 4th, 2023. The examination lasted 4 hours. I administered the mini mental state examination, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, and a full battery of memory, reasoning, and executive function tests. What were the results? Mrs. Johnson scored 29 out of 30 on the MMSE, which is well within normal range. Her memory is excellent. Her reasoning is superior. Her executive function is intact. She has 0 signs of dementia, 0 signs of cognitive impairment. In your professional opinion, is Mrs. Johnson competent to manage her own affairs? Absolutely. She's one of the most cognitively intact 68-year-olds I've ever evaluated. What about Dr. Sheffield's evaluation? Dr. Baptiste's expression hardened. Dr. Sheffield's evaluation doesn't meet any standard of psychiatric or medical rigor. No standardized tests, no documentation of specific symptoms. A 15-minute clinical observation is insufficient to diagnose dementia. In my professional opinion, that evaluation is fraudulent. Hampton objected. Judge Okafor overruled him. Dr. Baptiste, Darius continued, in your 30 years of practice, have you seen cases like this before? Yes. I've seen multiple cases where family members use fraudulent competency evaluations to gain control of elderly relatives' assets. It's more common than people think, and it's always about money. When Shayla took the stand, Jerome finally looked up. His face was pale. State your name for the record, the court clerk said. Shayla Marie Johnson. And your relationship to the parties? Jerome Johnson is my father. Beulah Johnson is my grandmother. Darius approached gently. Shayla, did you witness the signing of the power of attorney documents? Yes. Her voice was shaking. Tell the court what happened. It was in April 2023. My dad asked me to come to his house. When I got there, he had papers spread out on the kitchen table. He said they were medical documents for my grandmother, for emergencies. He asked me to sign as a witness. Did you read the documents? No. He said I didn't need to. He said it was just paperwork, that it didn't mean anything. Did he explain what power of attorney means? No. Did your grandmother understand what she was signing? Shayla started crying. She'd just gotten out of the hospital. She still had pneumonia. She looked so tired. My dad kept telling her, "It's just in case, Mama. Just protection." She signed because she trusted him. What have you learned since then? Shayla looked at her father. I learned that he's been stealing from her. I learned that he put her in a nursing home so he could take her house. I learned that he's been lying to all of us. Hampton tried to cross-examine, tried to paint Shayla as disloyal, as coached by me and Darius, but she didn't break. I love my father, she said, but what he did is wrong, and I won't lie for him. Jerome put his head in his hands. When I took the stand, the room went quiet. Darius stood. Mrs. Johnson, in your own words, why are you here today? I looked at Judge Okafor, not at Jerome. Your Honor, I'm here because my son decided I was worth more to him as a signature than as a mother. On February 12th, 2022, I had pneumonia. I was in the hospital, sick, medicated, tired. My son brought me papers. He said they were just in case. He said they were protection. I signed them because I trusted him, because he's my son, because I raised him to be better than this. But he wasn't protecting me. He was protecting himself. For 8 months, he stole from my bank accounts. $47,300 total. He forged my signature on withdrawal slips. He told me he was managing my finances while he was bleeding me dry. He had my house appraised without telling me. He planned to sell it, the house my late husband and I bought in 1982, the house we paid off in 2004, the house we raised our son in. He was going to sell it to cover his own debts. And when I started asking questions, when I became inconvenient, he locked me in Magnolia Gardens, took my phone, took my keys, took my freedom. But I'm not confused, Your Honor. I remember everything. I remember working 2 jobs to send him to college. I remember sitting in every parent-teacher conference. I remember teaching him to tie his shoes and sign his name and stand up for what's right. And now I'm teaching him one more lesson. You don't get to throw away the people who love you just because you need money. I'm here to take my life back, and I'm here to make sure he never does this to anyone else. The courtroom was silent. Hampton's cross-examination was weak. He tried to suggest I was being manipulated by Darius, tried to suggest my memory of events was flawed. Mrs. Johnson, isn't it possible you simply don't remember giving your son permission to manage your accounts? No, Mr. Hampton. I remember that he never asked permission. I remember that he stole. Isn't it possible that your son was acting in what he believed was your best interest? No, Mr. Hampton. He was acting in his own best interest. There's a difference. Darius approached the bench with a stack of documents. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibits A through M into evidence. He projected them on the screen for the courtroom to see. Bank statements from Green Lake Federal Credit Union. My savings account. Highlighted withdrawals. March 8th, 2023, $3,200. March 29th, 2023, $4,150. April 12th, 2023, $5,800. May 3rd, 2023, $4,500. June 7th, 2023, $6,000. July 19th, 2023, $7,200. August 2nd, 2023, $5,450. September 14th, 2023, $8,000. October 5th, 2023, $3,000. Total $47,300. Each withdrawal slip showed my signature. A handwriting analyst had examined them. 7 of the 9 were forgeries. Your Honor, Darius said, Mr. Jerome Johnson systematically robbed his mother while she trusted him to help her, and when she had no money left to steal, he tried to take her house. He showed the appraisal document from November 2nd, 2023. 117 Oakwood Lane. Appraised value, $580,000. Mr. Johnson is $340,000 in debt. His wife's business failed. He's facing foreclosure. He needed his mother's house to save himself, so he institutionalized her to make that happen. Hampton tried to argue that the withdrawals were for my care, for bills, for expenses. But he had no documentation, no receipts, no proof. Judge Okafor's expression grew colder with every page. Judge Okafor didn't even recess. She removed her reading glasses and looked directly at Jerome. Mr. Johnson, I've been on this bench for 12 years. I've seen a lot of things, but I have never seen a clearer case of elder financial exploitation than what's been presented here today. You obtained power of attorney under questionable circumstances while your mother was ill and vulnerable. You used that power to steal nearly $50,000 from her accounts. You forged her signature. You institutionalized her to prevent her from discovering your crimes. And you planned to sell her home, to cover your own financial failures. Dr. Sheffield's evaluation is a joke. Dr. Baptiste's evaluation is thorough, professional, and conclusive. Your mother is completely competent. Your daughter testified that you manipulated her into witnessing documents she didn't understand. Your mother testified with clarity, intelligence, and heartbreaking honesty. This court finds that the power of attorney was obtained through fraud and has been systematically abused. Therefore, I hereby 1. Revoke the power of attorney effective immediately. Mr. Johnson no longer has any legal authority over his mother's affairs. 2. Restore all legal rights to Mrs. Beulah Johnson. She is free to manage her own life as she sees fit. 3. Order Mr. Jerome Johnson to return all withdrawn funds, $47,300, within 30 days or face criminal prosecution for theft. 4. Release Mrs. Johnson from Magnolia Gardens immediately. She is not a voluntary resident and has been held against her will. 5. Refer this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. Mrs. Johnson, you're free to go. I'm deeply sorry this happened to you. The gavel came down. I walked down those stone steps with Shayla holding my left arm and Darius holding my right. The December air was cold and clean and free. Behind me, I heard footsteps. "Mama, wait!" I stopped, turned. Jerome stood on the steps, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Vanessa was already walking to their car. She hadn't even waited. "Mama, please, can we talk?" The courthouse steps emptied. Shayla stepped aside, but stayed close. "Talk," I said. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was desperate. The debt, the foreclosure, Vanessa's business. It was too much. I didn't know what else to do." "You could have asked me for help, Jerome." "I couldn't." "Yes, you could. You could have said, 'Mama, I'm in trouble.' And you know what I would have said? 'Let's figure it out together.' Because that's what family does. I know I messed up, but I'm still your son. We can fix this. I'll pay you back. You'll pay me back, or you'll go to jail. Those are your options." He flinched. "Mama, please don't do this." "I'm not doing anything, Jerome. You did this. You chose money over your mother. You chose lies over love. You chose yourself over everyone else. But you're rich now, right?" His voice cracked. "That lottery ticket, you found it. Shayla told me. You won. You don't need the money I took. You don't need the house. You're set for life." And there it was. The real Jerome. Still calculating. Still trying to find an angle. I stepped closer to him. "You want to know about the lottery ticket? Fine. I'll tell you. Yes, I found it. Weeks ago. Hidden in that coat pocket you missed when you were tearing through my house looking for it. I won $87 million, Jerome. After taxes, $44.3 million. I've already claimed it. Through a trust. Anonymous. Protected. I've set up $15 million for Shayla, your daughter, who actually loves me. She'll get it when she's 30. I've established a $5 million scholarship fund for Black students in Green Lake. The rest, I'm using it to live my life, freely, on my terms. You know what you're getting, Jerome?" He was crying now. "Mama, nothing. You're getting nothing. Not a penny. Not my house. Not my forgiveness. Not my time. You could have had a mother who loved you. Instead, you chose money. But you're getting neither." I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me. "You locked me in a cage, but I was never the powerless one. I was just waiting for you to realize it. Goodbye, Jerome." I walked away. I didn't look back. 6 months later, I live in a house now, a small cottage 30 miles from Green Lake near Lake Sinclair. 2 bedrooms, a porch with a swing, a kitchen where I cook what I want, when I want. Every morning I wake up without anyone checking on me. I make coffee, real coffee, not the watered-down institutional stuff. I sit on my porch and watch the water. Shayla visits every other weekend. She's still in grad school, still studying social work. The trust is secure. She knows it's there, but she's not touching it until she needs it. She's working 2 part-time jobs and loving her life. "Grandma," she told me last month, "thank you for teaching me that money can't buy what matters." Keisha graduated from nursing school in May. I paid for it, all of it. She cried when I handed her the check for $47,000. "That's oddly specific," she said. I just smiled. Dorothy moved out of Magnolia Gardens 3 months ago. Darius helped me get her into a smaller, better facility that she actually chose. She has her own room, her own routine, her dignity back. We have tea once a month. Reverend Williams visits sometimes. He apologized 100 times for not answering my calls faster. I told him I forgave him. He was dealing with his own wife's illness. He says I should give a testimony at church about faith and survival. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. It's my choice now. Jerome filed for bankruptcy in February. Lost his house in March. Vanessa divorced him in April. He's living in a 2-bedroom apartment, working the same job, paying child support for Shayla, and sending me $500 a month to pay back what he stole. At his current rate, he'll finish paying me back in 7.8 years. He calls sometimes. I don't always answer. When I do, the conversations are short. "How are you, Mama?" "I'm free, Jerome. How are you?" "We're not close. Maybe we never will be again. But I'm not angry anymore. Anger takes energy I'd rather spend on living." The Earl Johnson Memorial Scholarship awarded its first $100,000 in scholarships last month. 10 Black students from Green Lake. Full rides to college. I attended the ceremony. I shook their hands. I told them, "Make your education count, and remember where you came from." One girl, 18 years old, first in her family to go to college, hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for seeing us." I cried all the way home. Last week I went back to 117 Oakwood Lane. I still own it. I decided not to sell. Instead, I'm renting it to a young family, a Black couple with 2 kids just starting out, just like Earl and I were in 1982. I stood on that porch where Earl died, where I raised Jerome, where I lived 41 years of my life. And I said goodbye. Not to the memories. Those come with me, but to the pain, to the betrayal, to the idea that I was ever powerless. I'm 69 years old now. I learned that at 68, it's never too late to take your life back. I learned that silence can be strategy. I learned that underestimation is a gift when you know how to use it. The greatest victory wasn't the money, it wasn't the courtroom, it wasn't even my freedom, though God knows I fought for it. The greatest victory was remembering who I am. I'm Beulah Mae Johnson. I'm the woman who survived Jim Crow and rocks through windows and 35 years of feeding children who couldn't afford lunch. I'm the woman who loved Earl Johnson for 47 years and buried him with dignity. I'm the woman who raised a son, even if that son forgot what I taught him. And I'm the woman who found a lottery ticket in a coat pocket and used it not for revenge, but for freedom. If you're listening to this, if you're trapped, silenced, told you don't matter, told you're too old, too weak, too confused to know your own mind, listen to me. You matter. Your voice matters. Document everything. Trust your gut. Find your people. And never ever let anyone make you believe you're powerless. Because the only prison you can't escape is the one you build yourself. I'm Beulah Johnson, and I got the last word.